Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Roundup. And, today's episode. Turns out the big publishers are making some pretty damn big moves. Some for better, some for worse. We've got Activision, who have, severely shoddy account security. It's really bad to the point where people actually are, losing items, losing progress. Some of those things could even be paid for. Complaints are going unanswered. It is a massive situation. It's very stupid, so there's that. Then, for all the criticism they usually get, EA are actually killing it. They're actually collabing with Sega, and also they might be purchasing WB Games to the tune of $4 billion. There's a lot to get into the specifics of that situation. Now, of course, before we get into that sub button, this is what we're talking about these days. I think nearly 2,000 of you have joined us in the last week. Most of the people who watch this channel are not subscribed to the channel because that's just how YouTube works these days. So if you want more content, essentially daily gaming news and analysis, hit that sub button, and of course your likes and your watch time in these videos, that is what makes that YouTube bot, that algorithm that basically is our real master, do the business. So thank you for all your support. And with that, a wardrobe change and some breaking news because, just a short while after Blizzard's salary spreadsheet hit the news, as we covered in yesterday's video, Bloomberg are actually back with another follow-up story to that. Essentially, following the spreadsheet actually going out there, Blizzard employees have begun to work together to organize a list of workplace requests. Now, Bloomberg saw a draft version of this, and basically it asks for changes on how promotions are handled in the company, as well as increased pay and vacation for, and this is what's important, CS, customer service, and QA staff. Now, those are the sorts of things that won't be as big problems for some of the more, top-end people, like your senior engineers. But essentially, it's the CS and QA staff that are kind of, just the meat that's churned through in many ways. Now, as far as the requests go, I'd say they do seem decently reasonable. Now, these discussions took place in a Slack channel with over 870 members. That's a lot of staff. Now, for an idea of what that sort of portion is, we know that ActiBlizz has 9,200 employees as of December 2019. Now, Blizzard is but one of three major business segments. The others, of course, are Activision and King. So if we make a basic assumption and say that Blizzard are a third of that total number of employees, then Blizzard are about, 3,000 employees. And that would mean that almost a third of the Blizzard staff are in this. Now, perhaps the Blizzard family effect, right? Keep it in the family. Don't say anything that would hurt the family. Any attacks in the family are bad. That sort of, cultish thing. Maybe that sort of cult has been dispelled a little bit by just how distressing some of the examples of underpay at Blizzard actually ended up being. Now, Blizzard spokesperson has said that they will continue to adapt their compensation, saying that they look forward to hearing specific requests directly. Now, that doesn't really mean too much beyond that they are willing to listen, but, that's also nothing that they can, there's nothing Blizzard can really say at this stage, right? The only thing that will really speak is actions, and given how leaky I think Blizzard's going to be after all of this, I think that we'll find out what actions they do or do not take. Now, one last bit of info that we can actually glean from the Bloomberg article is basically affirming what is expected. In the document, employees wrote, "Our mentors are leaving in droves." And that's something that anybody in the know with Blizzard and, just anybody would know that, yes, the more experienced staff are not sticking around there. Now, there's going to be examples where staff just move on to new pastures for whatever regular reason, but as they say, our mentors are leaving in droves. So, Blizzard employees basically are finally getting together to talk about what the organization can do and how it can change. Now, this is all as a result of them communicating with each other about their problems. So, I think there's a decent chance that the public response to the original story has essentially galvanized a lot of employees who are going to think, actually, you know what? We're involved in these games that people love. And the people who love our games would actually like to stand by us, the people who are making those games. And if that is happening, then I think it's probably good seeing people stand up together. And hopefully the situation here is that we'll see some positive change begin to reverberate within Blizzard to get better conditions for the staff. I'd actually put money on it. If genuinely passionate QA and CS staff start being afforded better lives, then hey, our games and services surrounding those games will see a lot of benefits. Now, there are just a few quick little follow-up things to mention here. Now, there's always the foot vote, right? Now, you might be thinking, what's the foot vote? Well, as an example, let's just say I'm in America and I don't want to vote and I don't want to pay the federal income tax. I can upend myself from whatever state I'm in and move to Puerto Rico. Or if I don't like a company, well, yes, I could try to change that company from within, or I could just quit and go somewhere else. And evidently, we're seeing that a lot of Blizzard staff are choosing to quit and go somewhere else. And that's something that is just a regular and good part of the market, of the economy, where these companies should be competing with each other for staff. And of course, companies are competing for staff. What's that going to do? It's going to drive up wages and drive up benefits. Now, this is something that we've seen Blizzard actually lose on as compared to other companies, such as, say, Riot Games, who are basically seem to be offering more competitive salaries than Blizzard are. Now, the sort of thing there is people are always free to move, but it's worth also taking into account a realistic sort of perspective there. It's very easy to say outside of, if you're outside of Blizzard, you're outside of that working environment, it's easy to say, why don't you just quit and get a job somewhere else? Not everyone's going to be able to do that within the industry that they're in. A lot of people also, look, there's loads of times that, say, in a romantic relationship, people should get out of that relationship. Maybe they're codependent, maybe there's some bad things going on. And everyone external to that relationship will be saying, you guys ain't good for each other. You gotta get out of there. Little mental things like that can actually happen within an employment relationship as well, especially in a company like Blizzard that is really that Blizzard family. So there's that as well. Now, there's one final thing, and I noticed this. There was the talk of the Blizzard rewards. I think it was honor points, sort of reward system. And there was a leaked screenshot of somebody. Basically, it said, you've done a great job in your CS. You put in extra hours. Good stuff. We've given you 1,000 honor points. And essentially, it was a system where people were being given things like 25-year World of Warcraft game time cards, in-game mounts, and things like that, kind of for performance at work. Now, the thing is, what you should be getting there is a performance-based bonus, unless, your landlord is a humongous nerd who is going to accept a 25-year World of Warcraft game time card in lieu of rent. But I don't think that's many landlords. And suffice to say, that's another decent example of, the old passion exploitation. And the thing I wanted to bring up here as well is that that screenshot has been confirmed by Wowhead, who are a major World of Warcraft fan site, pretty much the largest. No, they are the largest. And they said that they have received confirmation that they can basically verify the veracity of that screenshot. So it does seem like that's also something that Blizzard were doing, which, is obviously pretty shitty. So there you go. That's the Blizzard story. Now it's time to go into the past for the other stuff that's been going on with the various different publishers in the industry. Activision, I hope that you are not somebody who finds it painful to hear about stupid security practices, because certainly what Activision are doing is bloody insane here. So, a lot of people are reporting having their accounts being stolen. Now, this is likely by bots using, password databases or maybe targeted brute forcing. Now, the way that would work is, as an example, say you've got a Dropbox account and say you're using the same, email address and password for your Activision account. Well, if they get Dropbox, then your email address and password will just be on a big spreadsheet somewhere that could easily be brute forced or, just mass entered into PSN or whatever. So this has been happening, and the hijacked accounts are, of course, losing all their cosmetics, their in-game progress, all that stuff that you would expect. And right now, it looks like only manual intervention from Activision support is able to restore accounts. And even that is not guaranteed because their support is essentially woeful. Now, you might be thinking, that's not Activision's fault. That's just people with bad security practices. Absolutely. And this is where we get to the Activision bit, because this essentially stems from their security practices being abominable, like years and years out of date. Okay, let's go. Email addresses and passwords can be changed without the need for email verification. Yes, that's insane. The system does not even notify the linked email address of any changes, and that means that once an account has been accessed, all the details can be changed for that account, and the original account owner won't even realize. They won't get any notification until they try to log in next. And that is wild. Now, if a platform is unlinked and then you try to log in again with that same email address, what's going to happen? Guess what? It's just going to read your old email address that was your account as a new one. So it's just going to ask you to sign up again. Sign up and then log into your Activision account. which means you're just going to make a fresh account with like shag all on it. What does that mean? It means a lot of people are getting their account swiped, then they're trying to log in again with the same email address, then creating a new account, and this likely will just confuse a hell of a lot of people, and in a way where they won't even know that what happened is that their original account was compromised. And then logins can be relatively easily brute forced as well. Trying random passwords on an account doesn't time you out or lock you out, and when we tested, there wasn't even a reCAPTCHA. Initially, it only appeared after the page was refreshed. So that's a massive security hole. Then, Activision accounts don't have two-factor authentication, which, alongside the lack of email verification, is crazy. What's going on? This is like 10 or 15 years out of date. Security practices. It's insane that it's coming from them. And then you have to add in the fact that Activision support is abysmal. And yes, people are not having a great time. The support is unreliable when it comes to retrieving stolen accounts. And they're also not personal with their communication. So everything just looks like a stock reply. Basically, this is sheer negligence on Activision's side. It's bad security, and it's an unwillingness that I would say, you could say that it speaks to a disdain for the player base. What I would more likely say, though, is it's just something they've never really felt the need to do. And that's obviously really bad. And now it's at the stage where it's going to start getting people in a bad spot with their accounts. And reading through Reddit, this seems to be a problem that's actually becoming more widespread as well. And Activision have not commented on it. They're seemingly not doing anything about it. And ultimately, I think the only way that this can actually, lead to any change is if it undermines their economy, right? Their money coming in. And then I would say that any economic system is pretty much built on security and reliability and trust. Now, that economic system could include microtransactions on Warzone on the Xbox and the PS4. Now, there's a thing. Will people feel confident putting their money into that when they know that the account security is really bad? I'd say probably not. And what's insane is that this is something that the other side of Activision Blizzard, Blizzard Entertainment, got right a long time ago. You see, in World of Warcraft, what people would do is they'd hack an account, they'd clean it out of gold, and then they'd sell that gold in the grey market for real money. This was a major problem. WoW account hacking was so massive back in the day that Blizzard basically just ended up being forced to lead the game industry when it came to account security. You could buy in the mail a little authenticator key fob. You hit a button on it. It would be sort of similar to your bank account, right? You hit a little button, it generates a code, you use that to log in. Nowadays, that's on your phone. But they had that, they had a phone text verification, they had all this stuff going on in 2008. So that Blizzard Entertainment had all of this happening, and then the other side, Activision, are so far behind is just honestly a little bit insane. So there's that story. All I can say there is just watch out, and of course, never use the same email address, password combination for all the sites that you're using, or never duplicate that. Come on, we need to start doing decent security practices, and I think especially in situations where companies are really, really shoddy with their own security, where you basically just can't trust them. All right, and then next up on the docket today for the news, we have got EA and WB Games. Now this could be massive. So, as a quick reminder here, Warner Brothers gaming division, which includes developers like Rocksteady, so that's the Batman games, and NetherRealm, so that's Mortal Kombat, that's up for sale to the tune of $4 billion. This is something that was going around in the circles that we covered in a video ages ago. Obviously, $4 billion is many beans. It's a lot of money, and that does mean that the only people who, whose interest is relevant is people with a lot of money. So, Microsoft, Activision, Take-Two, they all reportedly have voiced interest, but it seems like EA may be a bit closer to making a move. Now, we say this because in the company's most recent financial call, CFO Blake Jorgensen stated that EA are, quote, more interested than ever when it comes to acquiring new talent. And of course, getting WB Games would mean lots of talent and lots of IP. Now, while Jorgensen, of course, could not comment on any specific acquisitions, his words are a pretty big hint that EA are considering opening up the wallet. And if they were to open up the wallet, there is one particularly juicy gaming division that is up for sale from what we understand right now. Now, part of the reason for that is WB Games, right? So it's the gaming division of Warner Brothers, right? And Warner Media is absolutely massive. Who owns them? AT&T. Now, the thing there is, and This was so boring, but we looked through it. We looked through like the various earnings calls for for that, and guess what? WB Games were barely ever mentioned, and it seems like there's a drive there to cut down costs, and certainly getting rid of a gaming division that doesn't seem to matter too much to them, to the tune of $4 billion, would probably be a pretty good way to help out their short-term finances, right? Now, this is a deal that could make a lot of sense for EA, as it would for I think any of these publishers, but it also would be a lot of money, and that would be a departure from how EA have actually managed deals like this in the past. Now, in terms of some of the franchises, EA have got history, right? Harry Potter, they were involved in each of the movie tie-ins, so there was that. There's also the Quidditch World Cup game that they were also involved in, so the prospect of having some involvement in the upcoming Harry Potter RPG, I could see that being a nice thing. I also have to wonder how monetizable that would be. That would certainly be an interesting thing to consider. I guess maybe Wizards Unite, I don't know how big that is though. Actually, I'm not sure really anything about that game. But then also, of course, there's Batman. That's a really big name. Those games did super well. There's Mortal Kombat, which EA probably wouldn't want to scoff at. There's also Lord of the Rings, which, again, that's pretty major. And, of course, also somewhere where EA have got a bit of history. Of course, the Shadow of series. And also the developer of those, Monolith. That's another major thing. Development talent. If you can get Monolith, NetherRealm, Rocksteady, those are real heavy hitters. Now, that said, $4 billion is a lot of money, and it could be that EA may not be willing to pay it, because back in 2017, mergers and acquisitions firm PitchBook reported that EA had spent $2.9 billion on its 10 largest acquisitions since 1992. So yes, a $4 billion splurge on one deal would be a pretty significant departure from how EA have typically conducted themselves, but that said, they could probably afford it these days. And if you think about EA, well, maybe they're a bit worried about how much of their business is dependent on FIFA Ultimate Team. It's like it's a massive amount of their live service revenue. So they could be worried about that. Maybe diversification is what they would want. Another company that I think would actually be, if I could actually say who would I like to get to pick them up the most, and I mean this from more of an investory sort of finance perspective, it would actually be Activision Blizzard. And the reason why I say that is because Blizzard is, slow, old, reliable, right? They're not fast. They're not going to be making new trends, really. I don't think. They're just, Overwatch kind of did a bit of that, but generally speaking, you know what it's like with Blizzard. They're just slow. So there's that. And then if you look at Activision Publishing, well, why did they get rid of Destiny? Basically, it was tying down loads of development resources, groups like High Noon, various studios. It was tying down loads of dev resources, and it wasn't doing all that well, so it basically wasn't worth it to them. Now, we're in a situation where, if you think about them, they've got a small number of franchises. Yes, they're highly profitable, but they're also in a situation where if Call of Duty takes a 15%, 20%, 30% dip, bam, that's a lot of their business that is just taking a big dip. So, who would benefit the most from a just big old shot of diversification in their portfolio? I would say probably them. And also, if we are to accept that Activision Publishing has been struggling with development resources, as evidenced by their own stated reasonings for why they got rid of Bungie and got rid of Destiny to free up those other studios, then surely getting Monolith, Rocksteady, and NetherRealm and others would be a good thing for them. So it actually, I think, could be a thing, but we'll just have to wait and see. Now, there is some more news going on there with EA. They're doing pretty well on Steam, as it turns out. Basically this mission to be a bit more purchasable, a bit more accessible across different places, so they brought a bunch of games to Steam. And at the time, a lot of us just were like, you know what, a bunch of EA games, who really cares? But it actually turns out loads of people cared. So according to Valve, EA holds 8 out of the 20 best-selling slots for June. That's Battlefield, that's Command & Conquer Remastered, Crysis 3, Dragon Age Inquisition, Need for Speed Heat, Sims 4, Star Wars Battlefront 2, and Titanfall 2. All made an appearance in that chart. By the way, Titanfall 2. It's really nice to see that game do well. Its multiplayer is so good. But when we actually take this to the financial numbers, it's interesting because EA recently noted a huge spike in quarterly PC gaming revenue. Total sales were up 202% year on year to $1.4 billion, and PC earnings were up 74% to $340 million. So maybe Steam's good for business. Who would have known? And then finally, we've got Sega joining EA Origin. So 3 Sega PC titles are joining the expensive, the Origin Access Premier, the more pricey tier. And they're the first games from them to do so. That's Sonic Mania, 2 Point Hospital, and Endless Legend, which really is just an all-around win-win. It improves Origin's offering. It also, it's just those games being available in more places, which is probably good for Sega. And I think it's interesting because some Sega games are on Game Pass as well, so at least seems like we're not getting publishers being totally locked down to being exclusive to a subscription. yet. Because I can totally see that happening. And that is it for today's report. Of course, if you want to see something juicy, you can check out yesterday's report on Blizzard Entertainment. Oh, they are not paying staff that well. They're being a little bit shifty, doing that old exploitation for passion. Yes, turns out one person was just able to go to Riot and earn double the money. This is a bit insane. So you can check out yesterday's video. And of course, there will be lots more content, near daily content on the channel. So hit that sub and hit that like button. Thank you for all of your support, and I'll see you next time.